It has been 2 weeks of things not going to plan here with Mistress's boat work, but you just have to keep moving and let the days pass. Actually not what I expected it would look like. This will not hold any moisture whatsoever, as in zero. And how good does that look? They're done. I've made the little gift for the patrons. I'm going to be heading down to Brisbane to sort out a few things, principally of which is replacing this insulation for proper closed cell polyethylene foam insulation. I've been speaking with Chris from Dyman Foams over the last 2 days, and he's very graciously agreed to give me a reduced price, and I'm so thankful for that. And so what I'll be doing is driving down there first. I'll pick up all of that foam. I'll have a bit of footage of that. Also, whilst I'm down there, I'm going to be going to a steel supplies place to get some hot dip galvanized steel. I'll explain more about that later. And the last thing is there's a rubber store down there which have really good prices on all sorts of things regarding rubber. So I'll be getting some rubber strip, which I'll need for the tanks for the saloon area, for the cabin sole, and for all sorts of things going ahead. So exciting trip. Let's go for a trip to Brisbane. So here we are, everybody, at Dyman Foam. Let's go in and get the new insulation. So here I am at the back entrance to pick this up. It's actually not what I expected it would look like. Just had a good chat with Chris. So this here, which is 30 millimeters thick, the sheets come in 2 metre by 1 metre. I'll be doing my best to get it in the Subi, the trusty Subi. Yeah, it's not what I expected on the look, but in talking to Chris, this will not hold any moisture whatsoever, as in zero, and that's over time. He was saying there's a cheaper product which is a bit more porous, and that's probably what I was expecting actually, but this gear is the top range gear. So Dyman Foams for all your foam needs, people. This is where I got the V-berth mattress, and it's where I'll be getting the other cabin mattresses, as well as the saloon seating, the lounge seating, and all the backrest foam. Great bunch of people, local manufacturers and suppliers. Great to see. So the day after unloading these insulation pieces last night, I put them here and spaced them apart, as you can see. The reason for that is because they really smelt strong. That sort of chemical smell that you're not exactly sure what it is. Whatever it was, these were very strong. I actually drove home with the windows down to ventilate the car. But what I did was, as you can see, I placed them with gaps between them last night to air overnight. So the other thing that happened was we had a bit of rain last night, not much, but a little bit, and I'm very pleased for 2 reasons. One, I sort of thought, because I've been reassured by Chris from Dyman that these are absolutely never going to absorb water. So what I thought was, as a way to sort of get rid of the smell a bit, why not give them a bit of a rinse, number one, but number two, a test. And for everybody that saw last week's video, you will understand why I say that. So great news this morning coming out, looking at these, the rain stopped and the air has been blowing. All the water has either run off or evaporated. It hasn't left any marks. And in touching these, there's just nothing. No residue, no moisture. That is completely dry. So I really am very, very pleased. They've sort of passed somewhat of a little mini test. They've now been airing since yesterday afternoon, all night, and this morning. So now really I think it's time to start measuring up what they're going to be used for and cut them to size. Time to remove this panel. I wonder how this is going to go. Be interesting to see whether this is going to be easy or not so easy to get out. So let's see how this goes. So that looks like it's not in the so easy category. Well, that was actually quite easy. Well, that was interesting, taking that panel off. I wasn't sure whether it would be a little difficult or not so difficult. Initially, as you saw when I tried pulling it, and I was putting quite a bit of force on it, it didn't want to let go. What I found was once I got over where it was adhered with those 5 dots of fix 15 and got underneath right where it was joined and pulled, as you saw, it just let go. So a couple of things to say on that. Well, first of all, I'm just really pleased it came off without too much trouble. The other thing is, of note, I have not sanded the backs of these panels where they're fixing to the fix 15, and this is exactly why. I wanted to leave a glossy surface so that it would let go without too much trouble, and I think that's actually worked out. With a bit of force, they will pull off, but it does take quite a bit of pull to get them off. So I think this is working out really well. What I'm putting on is enough to give it a good solid adhering, but just by hand pulling off, it's let go. No tools required. So that's come off, and that is exciting because I've got the replacement insulation. I just need to get that cut up to be able to put that in place. Then not only that panel, but the lower panel can go on straight away. The same is true for the saloon areas. Because I have the insulation, I now have the panels all epoxy coated and ready to go in. So the next few days should see some good forward progress. Well, it's time to cut up these insulation panels and get them inside a Mistress. I've set things up in my little shed, and I'll just be taking these one by one inside and start to cut them up. Let's see how that goes. Well, that's worked out all right. That was fairly quick and easy. I wasn't quite sure how to chop them up. Initially, I was thinking about using a hot knife. I spoke with the suppliers of this foam to ask what's the best way to cut it up. They said that you can use a hot knife, but it will leave a bit of a messy cut, and they just recommended a sharp blade. So I've just purchased one of these boxing knives, sharp blades, snap-off knife, and it works a treat. This is actually quite well made. I was surprised. It's quite heavy. I thought it'd be a light plastic thing, but It's actually cast aluminium, and that's good. That blade will go right out to 100 millimeters. That'll extend 100 millimeters. I only need it to extend about 30 plus millimeters. So that's made very, very light work of that. As you saw, just a couple of passes with that knife, and there's my panel. So very easy. Now that can go in the boat. What I'll need to do, of course, is where the cleats are welded onto the hull, because this insulation foam is firmer and stiffer than the wool insulation, what I will be doing is I'll need to find out where they are going to be hitting the foam, and I'll just make a knife cut so that it can go over those cleats. So it's a matter of getting the foam on there, try and identify where those cleats are, little knife cut, and then hopefully a couple of dobs of Fix 15, foam in, panel back on. And how good does that look? That definitely looks like a new installation. It's nice and level with the batten there and frame. Look at that, that looks so good. I'm pretty damn happy with that actually. And as I say, it's just far, far the superior insulation. With the exception of the spray-on insulation, I'm not sure that there's a better product than this. Let me know if you know of better, but from looking online, this is a really, really excellent product. I think that's going to be absolutely the answer to my insulation. Or just sit beside me and never leave. I got the curtains up. I guess it would be nice if you could interrupt. It's a day like this. It's a day I really would have missed. All in all, that is looking pretty good. There's just one side effect, I guess you could call it, from having switched over to the foam. Because it's firmer, I think what's happened is the ends of this top panel are out probably about 10 millimeters more as compared to when the earth wool insulation was there. And so because they're out a little bit, this bottom panel wasn't able to rise to the height that I had it when I dry fitted it before. You may remember with the prior video where this was fitted, the line where they joined was absolutely spot on. There's probably about an 7 or 8 millimeter gap just at the center here where they meet. I'm not particularly worried about that, but it's not as good as when I had it fitted before. What I already have planned, however, is where these panels join, I actually have this molding, which is essentially a T-shaped molding, and that will go between each panel where they join, just to hide where they join. I haven't decided exactly how this is going to be fitted, because in some places it's just a little bit loose, others a little bit tight. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is just putting little small dobs of adhesive along the way just to hold it in place, which will hide that join nicely. It's getting
dark in here. Feels like I've been
I think that is insulation in a different game. That looks very serious.
to me, or just sit beside me and never leave.
And another thing, as mentioned previously, when it came to removing that panel in the galley, I chose to not sand the panels where they're going to be adhering to the battens with the fix deck. And that was very good proof that it's the right way around, I think. The Fix 15 still adheres to this, but I think with the gloss finish of the boat coat, it's just not absolutely bonding to the surfaces. I just think that that's worked out well. In the event that these need to be removed at all, yes, a little bit of force is required and they can be removed.
It's getting real dark in here. Feels like I've been here 1,000 years. Could you put some light to?
Well, that certainly makes things look better, I think. You may have noticed that I've just got a short bit of batten in here holding this end. It's actually only a temporary piece. While I'm getting the coating process on the battens, this is just a temporary fix to hold this in place. Hopefully you can see here, what I did was I made texture marks on the panels. There's one right there where my finger is, and that's to line up where this panel should be coming against the other bulkhead. And so I've done that on each end in order to line the panel up. As you can see, here's more marks on that forward bulkhead to line up that panel that will go here. Also, to explain this gap here, although it looks a bit like a mistake, it's actually not, because I needed to get this panel inside of this chain plate knee here. Because of the flange on these chain plate knees, that panel would not go in if it was a nice tight fit. So I needed to have a bit of a gap there all the way up. And that notch, as you saw me cutting before, just in order to be able to fit inside of that chain plate knee flange. So that's no mistake, but as you can see, it will be covered up by the batten once that's permanently installed.
Could you put some light
I think it's come up all right. It's got a mix of good quality parts to it. There's the marine ply to start with, and that's been epoxy coated twice. Even that little hole down the middle, that's been epoxy coated twice. There's a bit of Spectra rope and a stainless steel keyring. The other good thing about it, of course, is that it will float. If you are going to use it on your boat and you drop it in the water, it floats. So I hope that you like it, and by all means let me know. And thanks very much again for your good help sticking with me. I really appreciate it. Bye for now. Please like, subscribe, hit that bell and share. I'd really appreciate that.